Hi, this is Mr. Snyder with the tutorials for the Grade 9 orientation video that you'll be editing as part of the Grade 9 video unit for Exploring Technologies. I'm going to walk you through the editing process in this series of tutorials, and we're going to start with this first one, basically having you set up your project file so that you're all set to go once it comes time to actually edit. So the first thing you need to do on your computer, and your teacher can help you with this, is locate the folder that's called Shared Resources, and that could have a whole bunch of stuff in it depending on the different classes in your class that are using the computer. Shared Resources is where we're keeping things that other students can access so that they can work with different assets or resources for their projects. In this case, Shared Resources, double click it, it opens up. I'm just going to move this over. It's important you know that I'm working with an Apple, a Mac. If you're working with a PC, a lot of the commands and controls will be the exact same. The only thing is if I say Command C to copy, for example, it would be Control C to copy on a PC. So the Command key on the Mac is replaced by the Control key on a PC. Okay, so I've opened up the Shared Resources folder, and what do I have? In the Grade 9 Orientation Resources 2018, make sure you're on this folder in case there are other things in that Shared Resources folder. Open up that folder so you can see other folders that are there. We're going to use them in the order that they're numbered. The first one is the project file that we're going to use. And we're using Premiere Pro CS6. It's a professional, non-linear video editing program. And it's an awesome program that has lots of power, and it'll do a great job for what we're doing. So again, it's Adobe Premiere Pro. We're using version CS6. Highly recommend you use version CS6 as it's compatible with all the classrooms in the school. Okay, so I'm going to open up or reveal what's in this first folder. I've got this preview files folder. I'm just going to delete that. I don't need it. What I really want you to see is that there is one purple icon called Grade 9 Orientation Master Template, and I've got version 2 here. That is your project file for Premiere Pro. That's the file that's going to set up your workspace in Premiere Pro so you can start the editing process. And we've given you a head start in this project by creating this template so that some of the work is done up front, some of the technical stuff, so it really gets you into the editing process much quicker. Double click that Grade 9 Orientation Master Template. It will open up Premiere Pro CS6 because it recognizes it based on the last letters in the name of that file as being a Premiere Pro project file. And it will open up Premiere Pro CS6 in your workspace. Now, right now, what are we looking at? Not a whole lot because we haven't done much. I'm going to just twirl up here, and you should see probably about 4 different bins. They look like folders. In editing, they're called bins. And in each of these bins, we'll keep certain kinds of content. And it's really important in editing that you keep yourself organized. The first bin I have here is the one we need to work with first, because if you look, this is called a project bin. And if you don't see it, go to Window, Project, put a check mark beside it, and you'll see it appear here. If for any chance everything's totally messed up in your workspace, very quickly go to Window, Workspace, make sure you're on Editing, and then go down to Reset Current Workspace, and it'll say, are you sure you want to do that? And you're going to say, yep. And it'll put your workspace into its default view. Now, I don't like the way that this is balanced right now because I'm having trouble seeing my bins down here in my project panel. So I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to hover between these panels up here and the ones down here. And you see you get the little double arrow. You can click, drag, and resize to what the size that you like. I think that'll be good for me. Now, so what have we got? Well, you've got the project bin panel here, which holds all of your bins so you can work with different content. You've got the timeline to the right of it, and I'll show you what that's all about in a minute once we add some content to it, because right now it's blank. And then up here, the other panel you're going to need to know about is the program panel, and that's where you'll actually see the editing as you do it. So let's go and put some content now in our timeline. To do that, we're going to have to go into the first bin called Sequences. Double click it, it brings you down into the sequence bin. Now, if for some chance you need to move or navigate through your bins, you see this little up arrow? This takes me up a level in my bins. So click up and there I am back to my sequence and my template video, titles, and color mats. Don't worry about these other ones right now. Sequences is what we care about. So double click sequence. There you've got 3 different icons. If I click on the first one in my little preview area here, I'll see it says Orientation Template 1. We are, as I said, giving you a head start in this project, and we've created templates for you to work with. They're based on iMovie trailers that we've converted so we can use them here in Premiere Pro, so we thank Apple for that. They're free to use because they are non-copyrighted. So the first sequence I have, that's the little icon for it, is these blue and green, and they represent video and audio tracks. Second one, Orientation Template 2. Third one, Orientation Template 3. So we have 3 different templates we can choose from. If they're out of order and you want to keep things nice and neat, you can just click, drag, and reorder them. Now Template 3 is in the middle, Template 2 is in the far right. I don't like that, so I'm going to drag it back. First thing I need to do is bring a template sequence. Now, what's a sequence? A sequence is like a little mini project within this project file. It could be, for example, if we were doing a feature film, this might be the sequence 1 might be a love scene. Sequence 2 might be the chase scene. Sequence 3 might be the ending of the movie. You can keep things organized based on sequences. Think of them, as I say, like little mini projects within this entire project file. What we're going to do is use sequences to keep your choices of what you want to edit with separate. So sequence 1, let's double click it. And look what happens. It immediately adds it to the top tab here of the timeline. And there is my template 1. And you notice when it did it, I'm going to go undo, Command Z. Or actually, I'll just close it this way. Do it again. Double click and watch how I get the tracks here. I'll explain those in a second. So now I've got video 1, 2, and 3, and I've got audio 1, 2. Those are tracks. That's where we place our video and our audio. We always start with editing from the middle and then expand up and down. Okay, so I'll explain it as we get into editing, but that's what you have now. So Orientation Template 1 has been added to my timeline. But I might want to use Orientation Template 2. Well, there's 3. Let's move it over. There we go. So let's add now 2, so it's in order. There we go. Same thing. Video 1, 2, 3. Audio 1 and 2. Okay, again, if I closed it, little X there, to open it up again, I just have to double click it. Let's add now Orientation Template 3. Double click it, and now I've got 3 different templates with which I can work with. Now, if you notice, they look like, well, there's really nothing there other than I have created a timeline for each of these sequences. A timeline meaning, look, I can now just start adding media once I've brought it into the project. So that's the first step, is to get your sequences, open your project file, open your sequences, and add them to the project file. And that way we can get ready to do the next step, which is to bring in videos that will correspond to these templates into the project so we can start editing. So get it to this point so you have Orientation Template 1, Orientation Template 2, Orientation Template 3 on your timeline, and then go back up a level so you're looking at your bins. Now the next thing I want you to do is go File, Save As, and I want you to make this your name. If you're my student, I want you to put your attendance number. I'm going to use the number 1 for me, _Snyder. And then I'm going to call it, this is my project file I'm naming. I'm going to change all the name. I'm going to call this _grade 9 orientation video. And I'm going to give it a version number, V1, because we're going to save multiple versions of our edited project file, because if you lose one version, you've lost everything if you only have one. If you have multiple versions, at least you've only lost a half a period or a period's worth of work. So give it a version number. Make sure you know where you're going to save it. You're going to save yours. I'm going to save mine on my desktop. You are not. I've got a folder there called Grade 9 Orientation Project Files. I'm going to save it in there. I'd like you to save yours if you're on the Mac under Documents. And if you're on a PC, you can talk to your teacher, but you'll be in the equivalent of Documents. You can't save it on your G Drive. You'll have to save it somewhere else, most likely. Okay, but talk to your teacher about where they want you to save your files. So I'm going to save mine on the desktop. I'm going to save it under a grade 9 orientation. Let me just change the view. Go back a level. Like so. There's my folder choices. Snyder grade 9 orientation project files. And I'm going to save it in there on my desktop. I've got the name correct. Save it. And it's important you do this because what you do not want to do is save over top of the master template because that'll spoil it for the other students that'll be working on that computer. So you must save this project file before you close it under your specific name in a place on your computer that is advised by your teacher. That's the end of this first one. Again, we've worked with sequences, added it to the timeline. We haven't seen anything yet in our program window, but we will in the next tutorial.